I was 6 months pregnant with my first son when I started my first business, my private practice.
Right.
And in my mind, I was going to do all of the background stuff. We built an internal software to help me do the process.
Right.
And I spent all my time getting my stuff. And I was like, okay, once it's nice and perfect, I'm going to hang my shingle and I'm going to tell everybody I'm open and the people will come. And by the time I'm going to be done with maternity leave, I won't have to go back to my job because my business will be booming. That was ridiculous. And it took so much longer than that. And so if I would have started talking about accessible living while I was building my back-end stuff I wanted to do, then that year time frame would have been overlapped, and then maybe that would have happened. The thing I like to tell people the most is just like, if you have the idea and you're going to do it, then just start doing it and talking about it, because it takes a year to let the people know that you're here, and then by the time they actually start coming to you, then you'll be ready.
Don't take no breaks, I just do it. Just watch me work, I prove it. I was born with a gift, got the blueprint, top of the class like an A+ student.
Hey, what's up, good people? Welcome back to another Student Entrepreneur episode. I am your host, Zeke Wanganga. And as you know, on this show, we bring great entrepreneurs, founders, investors to be able to highlight their stories of how they become successful and how they scale their companies from 0 to 100 so that you can learn the same and hopefully be inspired to do the same. And on this show, we keep it real. There's no BS. We bring real people with real stories. But before I go ahead to the show, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor at KC Sourceling. If you are a founder who is looking for resources, funding, anything you need to scale your company from 0 to whatever 100 is for you, you got to go to KSourceLink and get the info. For my episode today, I am excited for the guests I have on today. We are going to healthcare. More specifically, we're going to occupational therapy and the caregivers industry. The founder I'm having on today has a tech platform that is making it easier for caregivers to give cares to their patients. Please help me make welcome. She has pitched on Digital Sandbox. She has been pitched on Pure Pitch Rally, Social Venture Studio, and many others. She, I would say, is a queen of pitching. So help me make welcome the one and only Dr. Brandy Archie. How you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yes, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a great day. And I appreciate you wearing green, keeping it with the theme of AskSamie. Yeah, thank you.
See, you know, the guest I gotta come here. I was like, well, what should I wear today? Mint green.
Green, yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show, Dr. Archie. For those who don't know who you are, just give us a brief bio of who Dr. Archie is, a little bit about AskSamie, and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Okay, so I'm Dr. Brandy Archie. I'm an occupational therapist by training. And I also happen to start a company called AskSamie because I'm really just trying to solve my own problem. Selfishly, this is what entrepreneurs do, I think. As in the clinic, it's our job as OTs to help people be safe and as independent as possible taking care of themselves. And if you got a progressive disease or the thing is not going to get better, then my way of helping you do better in your life is not dependent on how your body works. The thing I can change is maybe your environment. And I'm not trying to get you to move unless that's what you want to do. But what can we do to make the environment work better for your needs? And so that's how I kind of got into adaptive equipment and things that you can do to modify the space that you live in.
Yeah.
That way you can be as independent, at least in the space that you hold. I can't change the whole world yet.
Yeah.
But we can at least change that way your house works for you.
Okay.
And so that's the premise of using adaptive equipment to help, and the reason we created AskSamie.
So when you say environment, like give me an example of equipment, or how do you change the person's environment to be better for them?
Okay, so I think the thing that people think of most is, okay, I can't get in and out of the bathtub, so I'm going to replace my tub with a walk-in shower. And that is awesome, but it only works for people who own a house and have the money and the time to do it.
That's right.
And so that's not most people. The people who end up working with us and what ended up happening in my practice as an OT was you've had a stroke and now you're going to go home from the hospital and you're like, well, how am I going to deal with that at home? I've got 2 days before I discharge.
Right.
Well, we're not renovating a bathroom in 2 days. So our approach is to think about what kinds of equipment we can put in a space in order to make it work for them. And that might be for forever, or that might be just to bridge them till when they do something else different. Either way, it's safe and it works. So if you have a tub, since we're using that example, there's a thing called a tub transfer bench, which spans the width of the tub.
Right.
You sit down on it and then scoot across like a bridge so you don't have to step over the tub. And change the shower head to a handheld one so you can reach it, and put a little holder on the wall so the spray's not hitting you in the face. There's just all these different small tools that can make it so that your space works better for you.
So tell me this. So does AskSamie, who's the customer? Is it the users or is it hospitals, or how do you get your products? You do it on Amazon? How does that work? Like the whole...
Yeah. So let me just explain how AskSamie works. The goal here is that you get qualified information for what the right stuff is for your situation.
Right.
We got to deal with your unique environment and
Right.
then your unique needs, right? And so the customer is the person who needs the help is the person who has the disability or the older person. The person who actually comes to AskSamie tends to be the adult caregivers. And so like their daughter who's trying to figure out solutions for their parent who says, I'm not leaving this house. And the daughter's like, but you fell 3 times last week. We got to do something about this. Right. So that's who the customer is. And so they can come to AskSamie and use our AI chatbot called Sammy, of course, or our quiz tool, or find an occupational therapist to meet with so that they can get answers to their unique needs.
Okay.
And then they buy the equipment. So we're a store. We sell the adaptive equipment there, but we also have the resources and services that you might also need. Because there's one thing I've learned as an OT is that it's not just like, okay, buy this one thing and problem solve.
Right.
You usually need some kind of service, like a fall alert button, some kind of resource like payment options or caregiving options that are available in your city. And so we put all that in one spot so you can make a whole plan at one time with one tool.
So how did you validate there was a market for this, from being an occupational therapist to actually starting a company? How did you validate that when you were starting out?
Yeah, I think it was validated first by my own experience.
Okay.
And being an OT for 16 years, this is a constant thing that I was having a problem with.
Yeah.
I then validated it by starting another business called Accessible Living, where it's like a private practice. So we would send an occupational therapist to the house and do the same thing that AskSamie is doing. And I knew that was important because people were asking me for that. And so, that was low cost to entry, right? I can just drive over, figure out what you need, find the equipment, get it to you. It's just like a concierge service. And when that grew and I was able to add more therapists to it, and then we were getting referrals for places that we really couldn't drive to economically, then it was like, okay, this is a big need. Right. I can't serve it in this way as well as I want to. How else can I do it? And that's how we came to make it a digital solution.
Okay. So what role does insurance play any role in this? Or does what role does that play into all of this?
That's a great question. So because something happened because of your health, you feel like it should be covered by your health insurance.
Right.
And if you call them, they're going to say, yes, we cover durable medical equipment. The trouble is the definition of durable medical equipment is a challenge. I don't know, you want me to go in the weeds? I'll tell you about it.
Go in the weeds.
Okay, we'll go in the weeds. Okay, so the definition of durable medical equipment is something that a person needs because of a diagnosis. And that's like, okay, duh, that's easy. But here's how it plays out. Let's say you need oxygen to live, right? And you need oxygen at home. Insurance will pay for that because you need it to live. I don't need it. And because of your diagnosis of COPD or something like that, it's mandatory that you have it, okay? Benefits you, doesn't benefit me, I can breathe regular air.
Right.
A shower chair, on the other hand, or a grab bar, benefits you because you're having balance problems. It also benefits me because I might be holding on to it to shake my legs.
Right.
I don't have a diagnosis. You do have a diagnosis. So because it benefits both of us, regardless of the diagnosis, it's not durable medical equipment.
Oh.
So most of the stuff that we do that's helpful can be helpful to lots of people for lots of reasons. And so the majority of things on AskSamie are not covered by insurance. We know that's a big challenge. Right. So we take HSA and FSA cards. We have a grant program. We organize resources that might pay for it in your community. So we're trying to work around it, but frankly, our healthcare system is broken.
So is there, when you talk about the healthcare system, is there some things you might think are down the line that are in the works that could possibly help? Or what would you think would be a solution to this if there was the best world of things?
Oh, if I could wave my magic wand, insurance would just pay for adaptive equipment. It makes financial sense. So that tub transfer bench, we'll go back to that one, that costs $100. If I fall in the tub and fracture my hip, that costs about $30,000. So the cost benefit analysis is very clear.
Right.
But the spread of it could be very wide. So insurance is always trying to spend less, not more. Some things are happening in healthcare, though. Some Medicare Advantage plans pay for some basic adaptive equipment. There's some Medicaid plans that cover home modifications. There's just things that are changing in a test kind of format right now.
Right.
My hope is that in the near future, we will accommodate that as a flat, this is what we do. Just like your doctor's visit is covered, like this is just a thing that's covered.
If you were to say like the pain level that most people who need this that never get it, where the pain level is at, if you can get access to these things, how would you like rate that from your conversation with your customers?
You know, people can just live the life that they have, right? So if you can't get access to the things you need, you just do the best you can.
Right.
But what ends up happening is your life gets smaller. I'll tell you the reason why I really wanted to start the very first business is because I was tired of seeing people who could be my grandmother, my uncle, in a house that they are renting or spent their whole life paying for, but it's on a hill with a bunch of stairs and now their bodies can't handle it. And they don't have the disposable income to move into assisted living for $5,000 a month or to move somewhere else. Like that is their space. And so their life just shrinks. They don't go out anymore. They don't have people over because they can't clean the house like they used to. And then you get into more health problems. There's more falls. There's more sickness. We don't eat as well as we're supposed to, which all is a chain reaction to shorter lifespans. So frankly, it's a shorter lifespan. The pain point is very high. It's just that people don't always connect it to that. And so if we can address the root cause of the problem, real outcomes can be significantly better.
Wow. I think there's something you said before. You have been an occupational therapist for 16 years.
Yes.
So you started your first company. When did you go, I need to start a company, and when did you go, I need to start a tech company out of that?
Oh, yeah.
What happened between those lines?
A lot. So I need to start a company was just like so frustrated with how I couldn't make meaningful change in my patients' lives the way I wanted to. And the same people just kept coming back to the hospital and keep getting therapy, and that's like ridiculous to me. So I was like, for whatever, I have to just do it myself.
Sure.
So that spurred me originally. And then to switch it to be a tech founder was not my intention, but when I saw that the problem was just bigger than we could accomplish with the business model I had originally set up and the capital that I had, I was like, well, how can I multiply myself infinitely without infinite money? And so, of course, it has to be in tech. So then I was like, well, we're just going to have to figure this out. So I didn't have a goal or aspiration to do that, but it's all of the pieces led me there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. We've talked about healthcare. We're talking about the importance of this. Let's shift to Dr. Archie.
Okay.
Who was Dr. Archie before even going into healthcare, before all that? Who was Dr. Archie before entrepreneurship came around? Tell us a little bit, sir, about where you started, kind of how you got to where you are today.
Okay. So I was born and raised in Kansas City.
Okay.
This is my home. I've traveled all over the world, lived in lots of different places, but this is home. And I don't know if there was a time before Brandy was an entrepreneur because my parents had a saying. It was called, the bushes don't follow the path, they make the path. And so like that was a thing that they just always said to us. And my parents are entrepreneurs. They have rental houses.
Okay.
And so I've been a part of that my whole life. So I've seen that from my very earliest ages. And my dad did all the renovations, and my parents together did the renovations to the houses, fixed them up. And because he has low vision and I'm the oldest, I was his eyes. So I learned a lot about construction and about maintenance of a house at a very young age.
Right.
And also experienced disability. I didn't think of it as disability. It's just your dad is your dad. But as I got older, I realized his low vision was a handicap, right? And so I saw how he did his life because of that low vision and the adaptations that he used to make things work, and then came to OT as like a formal way to deal with that. But my very first thing that I sold was pens, ink pens at school. My dad worked at a place that made ink pens, and I'm sorry to everybody I sold a pen to, but he would bring home the ones that didn't pass QA.
Oh.
And so the ones that would skip more.
Right.
So we had lots of pens all the time. And when we're in 6th grade, that's when you're supposed to like pay attention to your own stuff.
Yes.
And the teachers wouldn't give you pens. You had to buy them from the vending machine. So I undercut the vending machines and I sold the pens that we had at the house. So that was my first side hustle.
Wow.
Until, he shut my business down.
Oh, dang. The security shut the business. Why shut?
No, not security. My dad shut the business
That's what
down.
I'm saying. Yeah, that's the house security right there.
Well, I guess I decided that the cost benefit analysis wasn't good enough. And he was like, okay, you're getting free product and making a profit. You need to pay me for these pens. And I said, you're not paying for the pens. Why do I need to pay you for the pens? She's like, that's not how business works. And so then I didn't like my margins, and so I stopped selling pens.
So that wanted to cut into the business.
He wanted to cut into
It's like, give me 10%.
Supply. Exactly.
The supply got to get paid.
Exactly.
You eat in
First
this house.
hard lesson.
Wow. So let me say this. So I definitely want to hear if did you have other ventures after that pen, or was that it? It was like, you know what, this is not gonna work. Did you have any other ventures as a kid?
Oh no, I think that when you are have a problem solving mentality,
Right.
you see problems and then you therefore see solutions.
Right.
And so that's happened like so many times.
Right.
I sold admission to our backyard. To the neighborhood kids because we had a swimming pool, so I sold that. So my parents shut me down for that too.
Why? It's free water.
It's free. I'm like, exactly. But then when you move into like professional world,
Right.
I did a lot of entrepreneurship. So within the healthcare system, at each of the hospitals and the places I worked, I always started a program. There was some hole in the care we were providing, and we started a program. Whether it was a low vision program, I started at St. Luke's. Or I started a driving rehab program when I worked in DC. And that's the same, process of starting a business. I had to pitch it to my manager. I had to find the resources for it and see if we could get the budget for it from within the bigger hospital budget. We had to advertise it, had to train the other staff, like who to refer to our program.
Right.
And so it was all the basics of starting a business just with the security of having a full-time paycheck. And so, that's been a recurring cycle throughout my life.
Yeah. And then before I shift gears, I want to tell a quick story. So just like you, I had a little bit of entrepreneurship in me. So back when I was a kid, during the festive seasons, there'll be fireworks being sold. But the only challenge is fireworks get sold earlier and it runs out. So you can't get it closer to the period. And that's when people usually go to market. So I will go when it's still being sold cheap.
Yep.
Buy it in bulk. And then I'd be the guy in the street on the corner. Everyone comes to me to buy because everyone is closed down. So I upcharge it.
You upcharge, exactly.
You
can't
do
get
it
nowhere else.
You can't get it nowhere else. And the kids wanted to have it right now. So that was my business.
Yeah.
I made so much money selling the fireworks that people were like, you know what, I'm not going to buy it. People literally try to fight me. It's like, how you make all this money? We want some of it. But like, that's like entrepreneurship. And then there was entrepreneurship. I was like, this is a way to make money. I could cut the market. I could be the middleman.
You saw a problem and a solution to fix it and a margin to deal with it.
Money was good. And then I even stored my own fireworks. And I was like, you know what, I'll just join you guys because they're my friends. They'll also give me one to use fireworks on. So I made money, but I also had fun while doing that.
There you go. Exactly.
So let's shift gears a little bit, right? So entrepreneurship. Is entrepreneurship what you expect it to be, or what is the reality of it?
I'm not a person that has a lot of expectations, to be fair. So I don't know that I didn't expect anything. The one thing I will say is it's taken longer to get to where I'm trying to go than I ever thought it was. So maybe I had an expectation that I would be able to achieve the level of change that I wanted to in a certain amount of time. But the interesting thing about that is I have done a lot of things and had made big impact in people's lives. It's just that every month, every year, the vision gets bigger. The more you dig into the problem, the more you see like, oh, this is actually a bigger problem than I thought it was. And we can serve this population in a better way. So then you add on. That's the process of like a single person private practice to a tech company, that's serving people all over the country. It's just like, how can we do more and serve better?
Talk about time, right? So for example, when I started doing interviews, I was in college. 2019. Fast forward 2024 has been 5 years I've been doing this.
Yes.
Talk about the time it takes to, I have this great idea. It's going to just work tomorrow to where it actually is in terms of like a time frame. How long would it take you to actually start getting customers and start getting traction? What is that time frame for you?
Okay, that's such a good question because I was 6 months pregnant with my first son when I started my first business, my private practice. And in my mind, I was going to do all of the background stuff. We built an internal software to help me do the process. And I spent all my time getting my stuff. And I was like, okay, once it's nice and perfect, I'm going to hang my shingle and I'm going to tell everybody I'm open and the people will come. And by the time I'm going to be done with maternity leave, I won't have to go back to my job because my business will be booming. That was ridiculous. And it took so much longer than that. And so if I would have started talking about accessible living while I was building my back end stuff I wanted to do, then that year time frame would have been overlapped, and then maybe that would have happened. And so it actually took so much longer than that. It took basically another year after feeling like I was ready to really have like repeating customers and like referrals coming in.
Right.
So when I had the idea for AskSamie, I fixed that mistake. And so the business was incorporated in 2022. There was nothing, just something, a piece of paper.
Right.
And I started talking about it then. We launched last year in 2023, and now we've been in business for a year, and we've served over 475 customers.
Wow.
And so that 2-year window is like super shortened compared to the 5 years, maybe 4 years I was working on accessible living before I started AskSamie. And so, so altogether I've been in entrepreneurship since 2017.
Wow. So you would say you had a pre-run before the actual, like you had a time to grow in the dark.
Yeah.
And learn the mistakes and then pivot from that.
Yeah, exactly. So even though I didn't have anything, like you were saying, I pitched a lot of things.
Right.
I was pitching before I didn't have anything for AskSamie. But for accessible living, I didn't do that. I made everything right. And then started talking to people about it. And then the thing changed anyway, you know? And so the thing I like to tell people the most is just like, if you have the idea and you're going to do it, then just start doing it and talking about it, because it takes a year to let the people know that you're here. And then by the time they actually start coming to you, then you'll be ready.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, because you talked about resources is one thing I know that you have benefited a lot from.
Yeah.
Especially pitching. Like, how did you go from to start a business to pitching to creating financials? What resources do you use to be able to grow at every single stage?
Yeah. I'm a really big fan of on-time learning.
Okay.
And so you don't need to go get an MBA to start a business. Right. But you do need to know how to use your resources well.
That's right.
And so Kansas City happens to have, I think, a whole lot of resources. And so I just dug in where they were giving back to me. So with KC SourceLink and UMKC, every time they were offering something, I was just signing up for a newsletter and keeping my eyes open for what was available, what I needed right now. And they learned how to use QuickBooks. Great. I just seen there's a class coming up. I'm going to take that. I've already have a business, but I'm going to switch into tech. I know nothing about that. I'm going to take Tech Venture Studios class, and like learn all that as I can. Every time I use a resource, it also came with people, right? And so then I tried really hard to meet all the people and talk to people about what I needed. Hey, thank you. This class was really awesome. I think the thing I need next is help with financials. Do you know anybody who can help me with that, or where I can go? And they point you in the right direction. And so that networking piece is really key. The on-time learning and the networking.
So talk to me a little bit more, because you mentioned KC SourceLink and the UMKC newsletters. What are some specific things you talked about, I didn't know about anything about tech. I went to Tech Venture Studio. Are there some other specific resources that you really utilize more, like some classes you went to from those resources?
Yeah, everything that Tech Venture at UMKC offers, there's always something at the right time for what I need.
Right.
So I use all of their stuff. And if you're not in Kansas City, then the Small Business Administration has a ton of resources, and everybody has an SBDC. So ours here is UMKC. On the Missouri side, there's one on the Kansas side. There's one in every community.
Right.
And so if you find your own, they have similar resources available. And then start where they're advertising, and then just keep asking questions.
So I want to shift gears a little bit to, because you talked about you were 6 months pregnant when you started AskSamie, right? So that means you're a mom and you have this business. How do you manage being a mom, having a business? Because I don't have kids, and it's even hard for me to manage my business, and there's so much going on.
Yeah.
How do you keep sane, and how do you do all this?
I don't know how sane I am, so I don't know if I can speak about that, but
that is the truest thing you said.
I think there's two big things.
Yeah.
One is I have a village of people helping. So I'm married. I have siblings that watch my kids. My parents help with watching the kids. My in-laws have, that is like a very village effort, which I really appreciate. But also I think it's really important for development of kids' lives too. Like even if I wasn't in a business, I would be trying to make sure they got to spend time with them. The second thing is I draw some significant or specific boundaries as much as I can. So when I'm at work, I'm at work.
Right.
And then when I'm picking the kids up, I'm with the kids. And when they go to bed, I go back to work, you know? And so I try to make sure that that time window, which is very small, of picking them up and then having dinner and putting them to bed is focus on them as much as possible. Is there's a really big reason why I need to not be there in the evening time. So that everything can be, I don't want to call it balance. I don't think there's a such thing as balance, but I don't, you know, the goal for a business to me is one, to make a change in the world, but two, to also create generational wealth and financial freedom.
Right.
And that doesn't do me any good if my family doesn't want to deal with me by the time I actually get to where I'm trying to be. So we need to continue to build relationship, you know, now. And not just like, okay, I finally made it to the top of whatever mountain and now I got time for you. And they're like gone doing their own thing. They're only kids for such a small time.
Yeah. No, I agree with when you said you don't know how sane you are. I resonate with that so much because some days I have 10,000 things going on. I'll just be walking. I'm like, I have 10,000 things going on in my mind I have to solve right now. And it just things coming at you every single minute of the day.
Yep.
Where do you, I don't know if I would call it peace or solace. How do you reset? How do you find a place where you go, because I have mind blocks where I'm like, I'm in a wall, I can't do it. I need to reset. I might go on a walk or just lay down somewhere and take a nap. What do you do to regenerate your energy back when you hit that wall? Like, how do you get back to a little bit of sane?
I think you got to do things in like micro and then in the middle and macro. So every day I'm trying to make sure I wake up and I pray and I spend my time with God. And through the day, I have these little reminders in this app that tells me to breathe. And so I've set it to be in my transition time. So after I drop the kids off, get to work, breathe. Okay, we're at work. Same thing when I'm transitioning out of that to the next thing. So that helps me in the everyday stuff. And then in between that, we try to make sure there's fun things to do that I like, that are fun. And I try to make my weekends be weekends, kind of. I like spend time with the kids and do the stuff that's fun and not only be working. And then I like to travel. And so, you know, quarterly or every few months or something, we try to take a trip, especially when it's just me and my husband for that relationship too. And then just to be away from everything.
So you say you traveled a lot. How many countries have you been to? And what are would you say your favorite ones you've been to so far?
Oh, I hate the favorites question. Every place is so different.
I mean, it's different. Like, what are your best experiences or memorable experiences? You'd be like, that was kind of different. That was different, but I enjoyed it.
Okay. I don't know how many countries I've been to.
That means a lot of countries. Yeah, okay, that's good. You've used the passport, right?
I don't want to take y'all's time to count them, but and every trip has every trip is important to me, I think. But the one that stands out to me the most right now is there's two. One, we went to Thailand over 2023 Christmas and into New Year's 2024, and that's the first time I've been that far away. First time I've been to Asia, and that was a really awesome trip. And then we also just renewed our vows. Me and my husband have been married for 10 years.
Awesome. Congrats.
Thank you very much. And we did that with friends and family on a cruise to the Bahamas. And so that was really impactful in so many ways. Just that they come and spend their time and share that special moment with us.
Right.
This summer was really awesome.
So tell me this. I know that, and then we're going to shift gears a little bit because I know. So before we even go there, I want to say something. I think having a family behind whatever you're doing is really important and key because you have to have that support system. Right?
Yeah.
Because as entrepreneurs, we face a lot of chaos every single day. But if there's chaos at home as well, that does not help at all because you need that balance, a little bit of balance.
100.
So I want to ask this. Most companies, they build a startup to scale or they build it to sell. For you, are you building to scale? Are you building to sell? Or just even the first question is, how do you scale this? And are you willing to sell in the future? Or are you just is this your baby that you want to grow out to the next big thing?
I think one of the most important things is that you got to begin with the end in mind. And so from the beginning, the reason it's not called Ask Dr. Brandy and AskSamie is because I don't want to run it for forever. There's two reasons for that. One, I want to be free to do whatever because I have lots of ideas of things to do. Right. And two, while this is a hole in the healthcare system, I'm not the expert who's going to be able to scale it to its worldwide proportions that it can be at, right? If it becomes acquired by some other major corporation like Amazon, for example, how many more millions of people would I reach so much faster without having had to slog through that for years and decades on my own? We could get to the point sooner. That's what my goal is that these tools are available to everybody as quickly as possible, because people's lives right now could be changed by having access, right?
Right.
So to me, I was always trying to sell it once we proved out its need in the marketplace.
How does AskSamie scale?
Yeah, so because it is a digital-based tool, it has the legs to be able to scale at a much faster rate than what we were doing in person. And so I think what our goal is to be the trusted provider for the providers.
Okay.
Because getting to the person at the exact moment of action point, like I was saying, like they're getting ready to discharge home from the hospital after a new event has happened, is really hard from like marketing and just like people finding out on their own and remembering, oh, mom's in the hospital. Oh, I need to ask Sammy. That takes so much time and so much to get people to that to be top of mind for people at that exact moment that you never think you're going to have. And so if we can become the trusted resource for healthcare providers, and that's what they're recommending and using, that's the primary way I think that we scale.
So tell me this. You are a Black female founder. In, I would say, a much more male-dominated industry. Has this been any factor to you at all, or have you been able to have any things that stand like, that's a little bit different, I don't know about that you've been able to pivot from?
That's such a hard question, I think, because the stats already show that it's challenging for underrepresented founders and specifically for women to get funding and all those opportunities, right? But I've never been anybody else. So the science part of my brain says, I don't know if I've been impacted directly, because I don't know what would have happened if I was a white man, right? Right. I've never experienced that.
That's true.
And maybe I was experiencing issues because my business model wasn't well defined. I wasn't telling my story as well as I could be. But you do start to notice that, like, if you want to compare yourself to others, you could say, it looks like they were able to access that funder faster, sooner than I was able to, or they were able to scale that because they had more capital earlier on in the process. I wasn't able to acquire that. What are the reasons for that? I don't know, but probably has some to do with being a Black woman founder. And so I can't change that. I'm not going to change that. Change me, I should say. And so that's just more fuel to the fire to just keep pushing and prove everybody wrong who might think that what we're doing is not important, or I'm not the right person to solve the problem, or that there's not enough similarity bias, like they can't see themselves in me doing it, so they don't think that it can be done. And so none of that matters really to me.
What has been, have you had some naysayers, or what has been some people who've not believed in it, or what have they said, and how are you showing them that, we got this going? Have you had any naysayers?
I think there have been some that don't feel like the market is big enough or understand that adaptive equipment can actually solve a lot of problems. But it's mostly because they don't have experience. And as soon as somebody has some experience, they recognize, like, how many times people have said, I really wish this was around when my grandpa had a stroke, or when my mom was dealing with dementia and she's gone now, but this could have been really helpful. And, 1 in 4 people working today are caregivers of somebody. And the likelihood that you're going to care for somebody else in your life is very high, near 100%. It's just a matter of when. And so pretty much everybody can connect with it at some level. And if they haven't connected with it in the past and they're naysayers in the past, they're not naysayers once it comes to them.
Yeah, they see it because you have to experience it to be able to know there's a need for it.
Yeah.
So one thing I know you've been really great at is storytelling. You have won a lot of competitions. If people are watching, let's say they're trying to start a company, or they just want to be their salesperson, because we sell every single day, right?
Right.
What are 3 key things that you think are important whenever you are pitching your story or your company to investors who are on the other side of the table?
I think the very first thing is to listen. I have definitely honed my storytelling skills, but they actually start as being a therapist. And so as an OT, it's my job to help you be as independent as possible. And often that means changing your behaviors. And who likes change? No hands are going up.
Yeah.
So we always had to sell the idea that, hey, let's do this thing you've been doing for the last 55 years this way. Let's do it this other way. And so it takes, the therapeutic approach is listening to what they have to say about it, finding a spot where, hey, do you think that this would work for you if we did it this way? Here's how we can do it. What do you think about that? That's a story, right? I'm telling a story to help somebody change a habit, and here's why you should do it.
Right.
And so massaging that to business is the same thing. Listening first, so you can understand the point of view that the person is coming from, that you're talking to, then highlighting the parts of your story that would resonate the most with them.
Right.
And then landing it by saying, this is why this is important for you. Not why it's important in the world, why is it important to you. And yeah, those are the three concepts.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, this question, I don't know if I should ask it, but have you had challenging times? And what have those challenging times been?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, this has taken a lot longer to develop than I thought it was going to. I've needed to work full time on this earlier than we could pay me to work full time on it to do. And so the financial stresses are really high, I think. And it's a risk, right? If I think about the years that I have devoted to entrepreneurship,
Right.
and if I would have stayed in the hospital and like just kept getting like the regular raises, my finances could probably be a lot better. But the end goal is so much bigger, right? And so it's worth the risk.
Yeah.
So those challenges with like dealing with how we're going to just live our everyday life is really big. The challenges with deciding how to spend time is really prescient every day.
Right.
What is the most important way to spend my time for the business, for my family, for my own personal mental well-being, and like deciding between that, because those are limited resources, money and time, right?
That's right.
So those would be my biggest challenges.
See, what you just said resonates so much because I always see there's a meme in my head that always goes, they tell you can be entrepreneurship to be your own boss, but no one tells you you're going to be unpaid for at least 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
No one tells you that part. You
They
just
don't
find
tell
that out
that
yourself. Like, wait a minute, this is not as fun as they were marketing to be. So let me ask you this. So as we're getting towards the end of the show, what would you say if you were to, summarize your journey, what you've learned so far, if you were to give someone else a hand up that, hey, this is what I've learned from building the first company and then going to the next one. What would be your advice for someone who's starting up right now?
Remember that you know nothing and that you always should be learning. And so even if you are the most advanced, skilled person in your industry and you're starting a business, you don't know anything about starting a business. And if you come at it with that mentality, then the world is open to you, because then you can learn from so many people and so many things. But if you come at it with like, oh, well, I know the way to do this and we should do it this way. I'm not saying you shouldn't have meaning behind what you're doing. I'm just saying you need to be open to learn and change, because the way we're doing things now is not the way I originally intended it for it to be. But the goal is still the same and the outcome is the same. And so the willingness to be flexible and learn new things is the only way to survive.
Right. And that's a mindset, like, because I know I have 2 a.m.s at most nights is when I wake up, and actually 4 a.m. And I just think everything's going to end. Everything's going to end tomorrow. We're not going to have any customers. This business is going to fail.
This thing is coming down
It's coming down tonight. There's no way I'm going to make it out tomorrow. How do you get through those moments and then keep still going at it? If it seems like it's not going to work out, what's the mentality that you use to still keep pushing every single day?
You got to, one thing I learned in therapy is that you got to tell yourself the truth, right? That your business is going to fall down tomorrow. You have no proof of that, right? Because yesterday it was a business, today it's a business, and all those other days in the past 5 years is a business, right? So what proof do you have that tomorrow is going to fall apart? You don't have any. So that's not really the truth. The truth is, yesterday I did this, today I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep going, right? And that's how I try to think about it, because the anxiety can really just like overwhelm you.
Yes.
And it probably should, because this is actually ridiculous to think that you can start something from zero, from nothing to something great.
Right.
And you do have to have a lot of confidence in yourself to do that, but you got to make sure that you can keep yourself up in those moments. So tell whatever the truth is, say the truth in that moment. You might not know the future. That's not the truth. You don't know the future.
Yeah.
But what's happened in the past to prove that you've been here today and that you should keep doing it.
No, I'm going to use that evidence every single time. Like I woke up at 4 this morning thinking, I don't think I have questions for this interview today. Even though I sent a question the day before.
You sent them already.
And that's what I'm telling you. It's always the things that it's like it's always something. It's always something. But let me ask this. This might be my final question. What does AskSamie need right now? What are you trying to raise funds? Or what do you need right now to get to the next thing?
Yeah, we have done a lot with a little. And so now we're raising a round of funding in order to push the gas pedal harder on the things that we know are going to scale us and work. But that takes time. And I'm the only person in the business working full time on this right now. So I want to be able to bring my team members on full time. Right. We have positions that we need to hire for. We think that's going to pay off in the end. So raising a round of funding is the way we're trying to go about doing that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
If you were to say where you want to ask, because I know you say you want to sell it to, what would you want it to be in the next 5 years? And what would you want it to be able to do for people?
I think in the next 5 years, I wanted to be very close to at least be a household name amongst healthcare professionals.
Right.
As the thing that they are referring to their patients to do and to use. And instead of just sending links to Amazon, that people are sharing cards at AskSamie because it's so much more comprehensive. And that we have proven that we can serve a very large population and that some other bigger organization is ready to start talking about buying it so that they can 10x that, 100x that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my goal for the next 5 years.
No. Again, I want to say thank you, Dr. Archie, for coming on the show. But I want to say, I think one thing that I picked up today is, as entrepreneurs, go in knowing that you don't know anything and you're willing to learn, because every day you're learning new things. How to create a proposal, how to write a grant, how to build a pitch deck. There's so many things.
Yes.
That you have to learn every single day, and you have to pivot because you don't know it. You just have to figure out how to do it because you got to do it.
You just got to do it. Exactly. Yeah.
You don't have a sales team. You are the sales team, so you have to figure out how to sell. But I think, that's the unique opportunity that, makes us kind of same, but also not same at the same time because you're doing so many different things at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that, or?
No, I think that's a good summary.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Dr. Archie, for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate all the insights. Getting to kind of know you more, and kind of, I've seen you in the community do your pitches. I've seen you working behind this. I've seen you on the call. Like, I've seen you do the things, and it's really cool because you guys sit down and kind of like, walk through the mindset of what's behind that, right? Yeah. So thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for all you're doing with AskSamie. And as next 5 years, hopefully it's going to be a $1 billion company, and I'm going to be like, I know Dr. Sarm said, I know Dr. Archie. I got a picture with her, so give me a check. But thank you so much. For those who are watching, you know what time it is. It's been another Entrepreneur episode. I'm your host, Zeke Wanganga. You know what to do. Share, like, let people know that we are here in KC. I'll see you in this episode. Bye-bye for now.